We were all lied to about what Jalen Hurts can actually do on a football field, and the absolute disaster brewing with A.J. Brown is forcing the Eagles into a secret offensive masterclass that is going to shock the entire National Football League. Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button if you want the fastest NFL updates on the planet. A lot of people looking from the outside and actually believe that just because the players are not legally mandated to be at the facility right now, that everyone is just sitting on a beach taking a vacation. Let me tell you, that could not be further from the truth. We just got a massive bombshell report revealing that Jalen Hurts and his new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion are absolutely burning the midnight oil. They're locked in, working relentlessly behind closed doors to get this entirely new offense installed and perfected. This is not just some casual off-season workout. According to the latest intel from ESPN over the weekend, our franchise quarterback and his new play caller are a match made in heaven. The reports state clearly that the two have instantly hit it off. The best part is that Jalen Hurts is completely buying into how Sean Mannion is structuring this offense. The conversations they're having about how to attack opposing defenses are completely different from the stale, predictable nonsense we had to sit through recently. This new system is going to look radically different. It is built entirely around what makes sense for Jalen Hurts. We are talking about a massive increase in play action and completely new looks. Now, inside sources have whispered in the past that Hurts was sometimes hesitant to embrace major schematic changes. But right now, he is more open than he has ever been in his entire career. This is an absolute game changer. If you look back at his history, Hurts clearly thrived under Shane Steichen. They had mutual respect, and Steichen knew exactly how to push the right buttons. He also had a ton of respect for Kellen Moore, and those two play callers undeniably got the absolute best out of our quarterback. But when we look at last year, even though he was friends with Brian Johnson, it was obvious by the end of the season that Hurts was completely over that offensive scheme. And do not even get me started on Kevin Patullo. It is a well-known fact that the relationship there was basically broken. So hearing that Hurts is fully energized and building an elite connection with Sean Mannion is the greatest news we could possibly get right now. I know some of you are probably thinking that no player would ever publicly admit to hating a new coach in May. But if this reporting is on the money, and Hurts is truly going all in on this offensive revamp, we are looking at a passing attack that will be a night and day difference from the absolute mess we witnessed last year. This is the kind of foundation that wins a second Lombardi trophy. But wait until you hear the massive lie the national media has been feeding you about our quarterback. The most fascinating detail to leak out of this entire report is that Jalen Hurts is completely ready to play under center. For years, the talking heads on television have pushed this totally fake narrative that Hurts despises turning his back to the defense and absolutely refuses to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Did the previous coaching staff purposely hold back our franchise quarterback to fit their own stubborn scheme? Statistically, if you just look at the raw numbers from last season, Hurts ranked near the very bottom of the entire league in passing rate over the middle. But when you actually dig into the facts, the truth is completely insane. Since 2022, when Jalen Hurts actually throws over the middle, he holds an elite passer rating of over 123. That is literally the second best rating of any quarterback in the entire NFL over that span. He is an absolute sniper over the middle, and he is deadly under center. The real question is whether the team abandoned those concepts because Hurts asked them to, or because the previous offensive staff just had zero clue how to sequence it.
It really dictates the
We might
defense.
never get the full truth on that, but the tape does not lie. When they actually dialed up under center play action, Hurts executed flawlessly. Look back at the road game against the Vikings. He was a perfect 4 for 4 on under center play action against what was the best secondary in football at the time. Look at the road win against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, where he went a perfect 6 for 6 throwing directly over the middle. Under center play action was practically the only effective tool we had in the passing game last year. Yet the previous staff stubbornly kept it locked in the basement for most of the season. Do not ever let anyone tell you Jalen Hurts cannot run a traditional pro-style passing attack. He absolutely can. Sean Mannion was brought here to make sure those concepts become the main engine of this team, and they're already laying the concrete for it right now. You have to give Jalen Hurts a massive amount of credit. He has dealt with an endless, revolving door of offensive coordinators basically his entire professional life, and he has handled that instability better than any quarterback in the league. If Mannion can unlock the ultimate version of Jalen Hurts, you combine that with a fully healthy offensive line, massive running lanes for Saquon Barkley, and a terrifying defense. This team is going to steamroll people. But what is happening right now with the wide receivers is going to completely change the landscape of the roster. The other massive piece of this puzzle revolves around exactly who Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball to in these private, off-site workouts. Hurts has been grinding away from the team facility with DeVonta Smith and Elijah Moore, building a bulletproof off-field connection. The word out of the building is that DeVonta Smith is now viewed as the unquestioned number one option in this passing game. This confirms what we have all been dreading, but also expecting. The A.J. Brown era in Philadelphia is coming to an abrupt and ugly end. The insiders are heavily reporting that there is a firm handshake deal in place to ship A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots. The trade is expected to be finalized in just a matter of weeks. The writing has been on the wall, but hearing it confirmed over and over again is still a massive shock to the system. Who's to blame for this loss? Drop a name below. Was it the coaching, the front office, or the player himself? Whatever the answer is, it is clear that DeVonta Smith was the biggest victim of the absolute circus that A.J. Brown created last year with his sideline tantrums and constant demands for the football. The squeaky wheel got the grease, and Smith suffered because of it. There were games last year where Smith would inexplicably see only 3 targets for barely any yards, and then the next week he would catch 8 passes and completely take over the game. The inconsistency was not his fault. Now, the organization is clearing the deck for DeVonta Smith. You need to buy all the stock you can in the Slim Reaper right now. People are comparing his upcoming role to what Puka Nacua did, or what elite volume receivers do in this league. With A.J. Brown out of the picture, DeVonta Smith is going to see a tidal wave of targets. He's going to be the focal point, and his production is going to explode. But there's another receiver stepping out of the shadows, and his role in this new offense is going to be a total game changer. Seeing Elijah Moore working out privately with Jalen Hurts and DeVonta Smith is incredibly telling. A lot of fans automatically assumed that Marquise Hollywood Brown was going to walk in and easily secure the spot behind Smith, alongside guys like Dontavian Wicks. But the fact that Jalen Hurts has specifically chosen to bring Elijah Moore into his inner circle right now speaks volumes about how the coaching staff views his potential. The Eagles have built a ridiculously crowded wide receiver room. You have players with very similar skill sets, all fighting for playing time. When training camp opens, it is going to be an absolute dogfight between Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore, and the rest of the depth chart just to get on the field. But here is the secret to Sean Mannion's scheme. If you look at the offensive trees this system is pulled from, specifically the Matt LaFleur-style offense in Green Bay, they do not just force-feed 2 receivers. Last year, that style of offense had 6 different players catch at least 29 passes. Compare that to the disaster we watched in Philly last year, where it was just 2 wide receivers and Dallas Goedert doing all the heavy lifting, while the rest of the roster just ran cardio routes. It was so bad that Saquon Barkley actually had nearly twice as many catches as our 3rd wide receiver, Jahan Dotson. That predictable nonsense is over. Hollywood Brown, Dontavian Wicks, and Elijah Moore all know they have a legitimate chance to earn massive target shares in this new offense. The ball is going to be spread around, and the defense will have no idea who is getting it. That is exactly why Elijah Moore is putting in the sweat equity right now with his quarterback. But the good news for the Eagles does not stop on the practice field. Wait until you hear how the schedule gods might just save our season. We are all sitting on the edge of our seats waiting for the official Thursday night NFL schedule release to find out the exact path the Eagles have to take this year. But a massive leak over the weekend has already given us a huge sigh of relief. It is officially locked in that the Jacksonville Jaguars will be playing the Houston Texans in London for Week 6. Why does this matter for us? Because it drastically reduces the chances of the Eagles being forced into an exhausting overseas trip. With the Jaguars game off the table, the only real threats left for an international game are playing the Commanders in London or the 49ers down in Mexico City. Sure, it could still happen, but our chances of avoiding that massive travel headache just went way up. That is a huge competitive advantage for a team looking to stay fresh for a deep playoff run. And finally, we have to talk about the absolute record-breaking weekend the organization just had off the field. The annual Eagles Autism Foundation Challenge just wrapped up, and it was a historic success. Nearly 7,000 people participated, completely shattering previous records by raising over $16 million through 40,000 global donations. The numbers are simply insane. It is truly a testament to the incredible community we have. Someone even proposed to his girlfriend at the finish line, which is just awesome. The foundation is run by incredible people and fully backed by Jeffrey Lurie, making it the absolute gold standard for charity in the NFL. We're only a few weeks away from training camp, and while the national media is going to try and write this team off because of how ugly things looked on national television last year, they're making a massive mistake. The narrative that Jalen Hurts is broken and this offense is doomed is a complete joke. We have a top 5 roster, an elite defense, and an offensive system that is finally waking up. If Jalen Hurts and Sean Mannion get this right, the rest of the league is in serious trouble. Stay loud, stay ready, and go Birds.